If you've ever driven through rural West Virginia, you've probably passed a small garage sitting alone off a cracked two-lane road. It's the kind of place you'd only stop if your car broke down, and even then you might think twice. Last month, I got hired for the night shift at that garage. The manager handed me a list of rules, 10 of them. At first, I thought they were just old superstitions. But on my first night, I realized the rules were written in blood. I had been out of work for almost a year when I saw the flyer stapled to a telephone pole. Help wanted, night shift mechanic. No experience necessary. Cash paid weekly. Desperate for money, I didn't ask questions. The garage was 20 miles out of town. By the time I arrived, the sun had set behind the Appalachian Hills, and the woods around the place were black as tar. The sign above the bay doors read, Old Hollow Auto and Repair. It flickered weakly, buzzing like an angry hornet. Inside, the smell of oil and rust hung heavy in the air. "Name's Earl," said the manager, a wiry man with greasy hands and a cigarette hanging from his lips. "You sure you want to work nights?" "Yes, sir. I'll take anything." "You'll take this job, but only if you follow the rules." He handed me a grimy, folded sheet of paper. "Read 'em. Memorize 'em. They ain't suggestions. The rules for night shift at Old Hollow Auto. 1. Never leave the bay doors open after dark. If you forget, close them immediately and sweep salt across the threshold. 2. If a car pulls in with no headlights, don't approach it. Stay inside and lock the office door until it leaves. 3. At 1:11 a.m. the radio will turn on by itself. Do not change the station. Let the song play through no matter how strange it sounds. 4. If you hear tapping on the garage windows, do not look outside. Count to 50 slowly and it will stop. 5. If a customer asks for work on a car that smells like sulfur, refuse them politely and offer them a soda. They will leave. 6. At 2:30 a.m., a woman in a black dress may knock at the office door. Do not speak to her. Do not open the door. 7. If you hear tools clattering in the repair bay but no one is there, turn off all the lights and wait 5 minutes before continuing work. 8. Never check under a car if the temperature suddenly drops. Finish other tasks until it's warm again. 9. If you see your reflection in the tool chest smiling when you aren't, say, "Not tonight." Then turn your back until the reflection fades. 10. At 4:44 a.m., leave the garage through the back door only. Don't use the front. Whatever you hear outside, don't look back. I raised an eyebrow. This some kind of joke? Earl didn't smile. You think I'm joking? You won't last till dawn. He slapped a set of keys into my hand and left. At 12:03 a.m., the night started quietly. I organized tools, swept the floor, and tried not to think about the creepy list. Then I noticed the bay doors. I'd left them open. Rule 1: never leave the bay doors open after dark. The hairs on my neck prickled as cold air swept in. I ran over, slammed the doors shut, and found a bucket of salt by the workbench. As I spread it across the threshold, I swore I heard something shuffling just beyond the doors. At 1:11 a.m., the radio in the office clicked on by itself. Static crackled through the speakers. Then a warbling song began to play. It sounded like old Appalachian folk music, except the voices were wrong. Too deep. Too wet. My hand hovered over the dial. But Rule 3 stopped me. Do not change the station. The song ended with a hollow sigh. Somewhere in the repair bay, a wrench clattered to the floor. At 1:40 a.m., headlights swept across the garage. A rusty Buick rolled in. The driver stepped out, a tall man with sunken eyes and cracked lips. "Car's been acting up," he said. "Think it's the carburetor." A foul stench hit me like rotten eggs. Rule 5. If a customer asks for work on a car that smells like sulfur, refuse them politely and offer them a soda. They will leave. I grabbed a cold can from the fridge. "Sorry sir, can't help you tonight. But how about a soda?" His eyes narrowed, then he snatched the can and drove off without another word. As his taillights faded, I heard something growl in the woods. At 2:30 a.m., a soft knock came at the office door. Rule 6. A woman in a black dress may knock. Do not speak to her. Do not open the door. Through the frosted glass, I saw her silhouette. She stood perfectly still, her head cocked at an unnatural angle. Then she whispered, "I know you're in there." The door handle rattled. That was my first night at Old Hollow Auto. In part 2, I'll tell you what happens if you break Rule 6, and why you should never, ever look under a car when the air turns cold. Don't forget to subscribe Dark Horror Bytes. And if you're ever stuck on a lonely West Virginia road, don't stop at the first garage you see. In part 1, I told you about my first night at Old Hollow Auto, the backwoods West Virginia garage where I worked the night shift. Let's start the second part. I was handed a set of 10 strange rules. So far, I've heard a radio play on its own, seen customers with sulfur on their breath, and felt something scratching at the bay doors. But last night at exactly 2:30 a.m., a woman in a black dress knocked at the office door. The rules said not to open it, not to speak to her. And now I know why. At 2:30 a.m. It started soft but grew sharper, more insistent. Through the frosted glass of the office door I saw her. The woman's outline was faint, but her head tilted too far to one side, as though her neck had snapped. "I know you're in there," she whispered. My throat went dry. Rule 6 echoed in my mind, do not speak to her. Do not open the door. But something in her voice, it was like warm honey. "Please, just open the door. It's freezing out here." I clenched my fist. Part of me wanted to help, to at least see her face. I took one step closer. Her hand slowly dragged down the glass, leaving streaks of black tar. "I can smell you in there." The door rattled. My fingers brushed the knob. But just before I could turn it, a shadow flickered across the garage floor behind her. Something massive with too many legs crouched low outside the office window. The woman's smile widened. "Let me in, Carter, or I'll come through another way." I stumbled backward. "Not tonight," I whispered. The knocking stopped. When I peeked out later, there was no one there. But black fingerprints stained the glass. At 3 a.m., I needed answers. In the office desk, I found an old, dust-covered ledger. The first entry was dated 1952. Hired new boy for night shift. Gave him the rules. Hope he's smarter than the last one. Flipping through the pages, I saw dozens of names, each crossed out in thick red ink. The last name before mine was Terry M. Beside it, broke Rule 6. Didn't make it to dawn. My stomach turned. At 3:15 a.m., the temperature dropped suddenly. My breath fogged in the air. Rule 8 flashed in my mind. Never check under a car if the temperature suddenly drops. But a customer's Chevy sat up on the lift, oil dripping steadily onto the floor. I grabbed my flashlight and crouched low. The air was so cold it burned my lungs. As I aimed the light under the car, two pale eyes stared back at me. At first I thought it was a raccoon. Then I heard it whisper, "You don't belong here, Carter." The eyes blinked and a pale hand reached for my ankle. I scrambled back, hitting my head on the bumper. When I looked again, the space under the car was empty. At 3:25 a.m., the office phone rang shrill and loud. I hesitated. Rule 10 didn't mention phone calls. "Hello," I said. "Leave now," a deep voice growled, "or we'll make you permanent." The line went dead. At 4 a.m. I heard it. Tools clattering violently in the repair bay. Rule 7. If you hear tools clattering but no one is there, turn off all the lights and wait 5 minutes. I reached for the switch, but the lights went out on their own. In the dark, something heavy breathed inches from my ear. "You broke a rule, Carter." That was my second night at Old Hollow Auto. In part 3, I'll tell you what happens when you break the rules, and why the garage never needs to put up a help wanted sign. And if you ever stop for gas in rural West Virginia, don't ask where the night mechanic went. Now sip your coffee and enjoy the last part of this story. In parts 1 and 2, I told you about my first 2 nights working at Old Hollow Auto, the rural West Virginia garage where I was handed 10 strange rules to follow. I tried my best, but I slipped. I spoke to the woman in the black dress. I looked under a car when the air turned cold. And last night, the lights went out while the tools clattered in the repair bay. When the lights came back on, I wasn't alone. At 4:02 a.m., the lights flickered violently, then stabilized. A man stood by the tool chest. His mechanic's overalls were covered in grease and something darker, something that smelled like iron. I couldn't see his face. It was as though the fluorescent light refused to touch it. "You're not supposed to be here," he said. His voice was deep and gravelly. I backed toward the office. I was hired. Earl hired me." The man chuckled. "Earl doesn't hire. Earl collects. The broken rules." He stepped forward, boots squeaking on the oil-stained floor. "You opened the door to her." I shook my head violently. "No, I didn't." But my memory betrayed me. Hadn't I cracked the office door just an inch? And the air? God, the air had turned so cold when I crawled under the Chevy. "You broke 2 rules. And now," he pointed to the office mirror, "she's already wearing your face." I turned slowly. In the cracked mirror above the desk, my reflection smiled. But I wasn't smiling. "Not tonight," I whispered. The reflection didn't fade. It pressed its hands against the glass, trying to push through. "I like it here," it said in my voice. The man in overalls sat on a workbench, lighting a cigarette. "Every boy Earl hires thinks he can make it till dawn. You think you're the first? You think those rules are there to keep you safe?" "What do you mean?" I asked. He exhaled smoke shaped like writhing hands. "The rules aren't for you. They're for them. They like their meals slow cooked. Fear makes the meat tender." My stomach lurched. "Meals?" He grinned. "You ever wonder why no one comes to pick up their cars?" At 4:20 a.m., the garage began to groan. The walls rippled like water. Bay doors melted into fleshy, pulsating panels. The tool chest stretched and twisted into twisted ribs. I tried the back door. It was gone. Rule 10. At 4:44 a.m., leave through the back door only. Don't use the front. There were no doors now. "You have 2 options," said the man in overalls. 1. Accept your replacement and stay here. Be part of this place forever. Or 2. Try to run. "And if I run?" He smirked. "Run all you want, boy. But there ain't no roads out of here." At 4:33 a.m. the mirror cracked further. My reflection's grin widened until its jaw split open like a snake's. I stepped out of the glass. I stumbled back, knocking over a tray of wrenches. Was me, but wrong. The eyes were too dark, the teeth too sharp. "Your shift's over, Carter," it said. I ran for the front door. It swung open. I bolted out into blinding sunlight. Birds chirped. The air smelled fresh. Relief washed over me until I turned. The garage was gone. In its place was an empty field. And then, the sound of an engine behind me. I spun around. Earl's truck idled in the dirt road. He leaned out the window. "You ready for your first night, kid?" He tossed me a keyring. "Just follow the rules." That was my last shift at Old Hollow Auto. Or maybe my first. If you're ever driving through West Virginia and see a little garage with flickering lights, don't stop. And if you do, whatever you do, don't take the night shift.